Your radio is set to the retirement income source with Tim Sparks, where it's always about the message of increasing your income. What a novel idea. If you think about it for a moment, the problem that we all know that we are going to have to solve for retirement is getting the most income. And while simultaneously trying to combat inflation, higher health care costs as they come, and gosh, I don't know about you, but I've been noticing even automobile insurance and homeowners insurance are starting to go up, and it's all these reasons, and it's so much easier when I know I got something reliably coming in, and that is called income. And so it's all about having reliable income. And here's the bad news for most of you listeners is most of you, believe it or not, are not getting reliable income. You're getting what we call cash flow management. Cash flow management means you're just taking withdrawals, and unfortunately, if you got into the weeds a little bit with your financial advisor, or even if you're doing it yourself, you will find out very closely that you're having to sell shares to come up with that income, and that's not what I call income, even though it's acceptable in our industry today. They call it cash flow management. And if you think about it for a moment, yes, we all need cash flow, but the least you spend of the shares and the more you get from income, the better off you're going to be, the more mileage you're going to get on your money. We appreciate you listening here today with me, and again, my name is Tim Sparks, and our show is sponsored by Sparks Financial Group, a firm right here in the heart of the Bluegrass, Lexington, Kentucky. Today, we're going to be talking about the income opportunity. Well, what do I mean by the income opportunity? Well, it kind of reminds me of my mother, who's always really good about getting things on sale. I mean, growing up, it used to be cutting coupons out, and it came out in the Lexington Herald Leader every Sunday. You probably remember that. And there was, the penny savers. I remember her, looking at the different grocery stores and seeing what they had on sale. And that's how she bought her groceries and also clothing or whatever it may be. And she was always really good about getting things on sale. Well, the point of this show and the point of this topic, the income opportunity, is, believe it or not, those opportunities, if are up for grabs. In other words, the supplies are there, but they're only going to last for so long. And what do I mean by that is interest rates eventually will start coming down. And when they come down, the opportunity that you can get right now is eventually going to fade away, and you're going to miss out on some easy conservative ways to be able to generate income and not touch your principal. You see, what people are using for income today is really and truly, when they look at their portfolio, or if you even understand what is in your portfolio, is bond funds or bond ETFs. And those are not really what I would call more of an income vehicle. They're really there just to lower your risk of your portfolio. And so that's the reason why they're utilized today, so that we call that risk management. You're just trying to reduce your risk. So that way, if the markets suffer a crash, you're not going to go totally down the tubes like it would be if you were totally in the stock market itself. And that's all it's doing. So we call that risk management. Well, the problem with that is, unfortunately, you have to take income. And so and income needs to come in reliably each and every month, just like it was when you were working. Imagine, being without work for 6 months, maybe because you're sick, or you were laid off. I mean, that's exactly what sometimes you will go through, and nobody wants to do that. But if the markets go down, you're probably going to cut back on your spending, and to be quite honest with you, that's your choice, but it's because of the instruments that you're using. You can actually change those instruments. That there's people out there, like Warren Buffett and Ben Graham. They've written books on this about investing for income first, and they, believe it or not, they did it even in their earlier years, just a little long in their later years, is because you got to have something reliably coming in each and every month. And so the markets are the markets. You can't control the values that go up and down, the appreciation of, so to speak, of a stock or different types and varieties of stocks or real estate. You can't control that. But what you can control is the type of income that you earn off from those instruments, because see, that's the reliable side. That's the part that you need. That's what you have to pay your bills with. You're not going to pay your bills by, well, wait for it. The market's got to go up, wait for it. And if they don't go up, and then you're going to blindly just use a cash flow management tool. You're going to sell the share, call it income, in hopes to replace it in the following year. So, if you want to know about the income opportunity, in other words, the one that I'm referring to today in this show, that I say is starting to slowly disappear, then I want to get a commission report in your hands. A great read, simple read, short read, called The Introduction to the Universe of Income Generating Financial Strategies. These are the tools that successful retirees use when they're in retirement. Not accumulating wealth, which is what I'm trying to get you away from, but I'm talking about income instruments that actually help you succeed in retirement, just like you did when you accumulated wealth. And this commission report can be yours if you call 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080, and we'll mail this to you or email it to you, whichever you prefer. Again, that commission report's 888-930-1080. You're tuned in to the Retirement Income Source. I'm Tim Sparks, and today we're talking about the income opportunity. Take advantage of the high yields while the supplies last. Now, what do I mean by yield? Well, when you think about it for a moment, when most of you are probably familiar with CDs. CDs pay a yield or a percentage rate. It's all the same thing. So if they pay you 5%, in our world, that's a yield. So that's 5%. That's something reliable that you're going to get paid to you if it's a CD. But CDs are short-term instruments. They only fix short-term problems. They don't fix long-term problems because, believe it or not, retirement is a long-term liability. And so you need long-term instruments, not short-term instruments, to try to fix a long-term problem. And that's why I'm saying the opportunity is there. And as my dad always told me, opportunities are never miss some. Some people take advantage of it, some people do not. And that, again, that's there for you, and I just want to let you know that it's some of the best times that I've seen, believe it or not, in 18 years. I've never seen, rates this high, yields this high. And again, it's eventually going to, the train's going to leave the depot and people are going to be missing out. And the very thing that's going to get them through retirement, the very thing they're wanting to solve, the very thing they're wanting to avoid is running out of money before they run out of breath. And you do that by increasing your income first. That should be always the highest priority. And you can actually do that in a simpler and easier way and a logical way than it would be to call growth income, and all you're really doing is selling shares. When the markets are up, you're selling shares. When the markets are flat, or even if they're down, to me, that doesn't even make sense. And not only that, a lot of people don't realize when you sell a share, you also remove a portion of income inside that portfolio. So What you're trying to do is avoid selling shares because, believe it or not, that's your ownership. And you're surrendering ownership to give you income, but unfortunately you gave up the ownership. That ownership no longer has the ability to grow because you just now removed it from your portfolio because, again, you got another problem. You got to have income at the same time. You see, we're in high inflationary times. And the way to combat inflation is to get the most income first and cement the years for income for the years to come. Think about it. Retirement income, again, is a long-term liability, not a short one. You need it for the rest of you and your wife's lifetime. We all want the best of everything. If we refinance a mortgage, we want the lowest rate. If we want a great steak, we buy prime beef. If you want the best gas mileage of a vehicle, we will buy a hybrid. Well, why not have the highest income and shop for the highest income? It's the same. I mean, we should be doing our due diligence here and not quit relying on a financial advisor that actually get this for you, because at the end of the day, you don't even know if they're even specializing in that. They're more specializing in cash flow management, which is not spending income. They're not actually increasing your income. They're actually hoping to get growth instead, and you cannot call growth and income the same thing because they're totally different when it comes to taking withdrawals. You know, I mean, if you think about it, we all need income, and so if we need income, then we need to solve income while supplies last, and you do that while getting the highest yields on stocks, bonds, and bond-like instruments. Well, if you want to learn more about income first methods that are focusing on income, and not only that, the opportunities of income are there, then you first got to have knowledge, right? You got to have knowledge is power, but applied knowledge is even more power because now you're taking steps. It's one thing to know about something, it's another thing to take steps toward that. It will surprise you in a good way just exactly what that will do for you, because it will give you more peace of mind. And we got an excellent book out there that'll be able to help you to start that process. It's written by Dave Scranton, a CFA, a financial analyst. The name of the title of the book is Return on Principle. When you have a strategy geared toward interest and dividends, you always know how much income you're going to be getting. That's extremely important. The markets will go up, the markets will go down, but the income doesn't change because of that. That's why we want reliable income. So this book will help you to see that. And for the first 5 callers of today's retirement income source, you can actually get this book if you call 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080. And we'll mail it out to you if you're one of the first 5 callers. Free, no obligation book, 888-930-1080. You're tuned in to the Retirement Income Source with Tim Sparks. We will be back in just a second. We're back. Thanks for joining us here on the Retirement Income Source with Tim Sparks, your host, sponsored by Sparks Financial Group, a financial firm right here in the heart of the Bluegrass, Lexington, Kentucky. Today we're talking about the income opportunity. See, we specialize in income, and right now income is for sale. In other words, while the interest rates are up, the supplies are up, but it doesn't mean they're going to last forever. I mean, eventually the supplies will slowly disappear, and it's such a great opportunity time for people that are interested in increasing their income while they're in retirement. You know, we talk about the 4% cash flow rule. Well, right now the income opportunity is higher than the 4% cash flow. Or imagine that. Imagine not touching your principal like a 4% cash flow rule will actually touch your principal, because you're still in the growth mode, hoping to grow your money instead. It's easier to just increase the income, therefore you don't have to worry as much about growth. I'm not saying playing down growth. You can have a customized portfolio where you can have income from both growth type instruments, stocks that pay dividends and real estate that pays dividends, and also you can have a fixed, more like instruments, that the opportunity that I'm referring to right now that pays you a much higher income. Keep in mind, the problem with retirement is not having enough income, and things are going up, and when inflation, as we've already seen, has been increasing pretty much for the last 2.5 years, why not solve that problem by having too much income? That's a great problem for any of us to have. You see, the most widely used retirement plan today is risk management. And that got you to the point to retirement. Some of you are already in retirement and enjoying it because you used risk management. And risk management is basically nothing more than just contributing your money each and every month out of your paychecks and into instruments that pay growth and income simultaneously. And a lot of times the growth actually assisted you in a positive way. But when you go into retirement, it's all about getting your interest up to where you don't touch your principal, because that's also what helps you to be successful in retirement as you transition into retirement. So what most firms are doing is they're still advocating the 4% cash flow rule, and here we are getting people income in excess of 4% and not touching the principal, where you're spending principal to come up with that 4%. I don't know about you, but over a certain time frame, that's a recipe that can actually cause you to run out of money before you run out of breath, because the more you give up ownership, the lesser ownership you have, the lesser leverage you have. I have a client that decided to retire the first of the year, but I've been talking to him on and off. He called in from the radio for about 2 years. And they wanted a certain balance before they came in, because they been hearing me on the radio show talking about investing for income. And, the opportunity came right around the beginning of the year. We were starting to get some really great contractual instruments that were paying in the 5, 6, and 7% range, and it made perfect sense. And you heard it right. 5 and 6 and 7% range. Those are real returns, and reliable returns also as well. And they're also the I side of the equation and not the G side, which is capital appreciation, which some years are really great and some years are disappointing. And so, when you have a retirement plan, you want to have something that's reliable. And I know y'all hear that a lot, but it can't. It's the one thing that needs to continue to be reinforced. And for some of you, you may hear it a lot. For some of you, maybe just tuning in, investing for income is how you get the most mileage out of your money. And so this couple, they wanted a certain amount of income. And once they went through the process of learning the difference between income management, where you're actually spending real income, versus cash flow management, where you're actually spending principal and income, to them, they decided that principal and income does not even make sense logically. And so the only reason they stepped into retirement, and they would not have stepped into retirement, is because once we did the analysis with the retirement risk report, they realized that the amount of income they were really getting, there's an easy way of finding this out, in interest and dividends that are paid to you. Sometimes statements show it, sometimes they do not. On $1.5 million, they were getting about $22,000 a year. And, they didn't feel comfortable spending, because they needed about $75,000 a year, they didn't feel comfortable spending $50,000 a year in principal. So in order to get the I up, where it's no longer $22,000 to more realistically in the $70,000 to $75,000 range, that made them feel more comfortable, and they said that they can live on that. And only that, these people retired at 58 years old. So imagine, most people a lot of times won't even consider retiring at age 58 because they think they got to wait till they're at least 62 when Social Security age, so that way they can have Social Security something else to come. They want something else that's coming in guaranteed, and Social Security, as for now, obviously we all know is a guaranteed income. So they need something to assist that, just in case they may be forced to maybe live on Social Security. But of course, most people know you cannot live on Social Security alone. You got to have other resources coming in to be able to pay you income. And so they wanted the reliable side, the I side first coming in, and then if they need to touch principal, they're going to touch less principal than most people, unfortunately, are spending more principal in their portfolio and calling it income, and that's not income. I hate to break the bad news to you. It is not income. And if you want to get more mileage, you got to get the I up first to be able to do that. I meaning yield or interest and dividends. If this makes sense to you, I want to get a commission report in your hand. It's called The Introduction to the Universe of Income Generating Financial Strategies. This report will share with you the very instruments that our clients actually use that helps them to be successful in retirement, just like it was of being successful, the tools you use to help you accumulate to have the point to where you feel comfortable going in retirement. Now you got to figure out how you're going to keep your money. It's one thing to make it, it's another thing to keep it, as my dad used to tell me. But this commission report can be yours if you call 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080. This is simple and helpful piece, and we can mail it or email it, whichever you prefer, 888-930-1080. Keep in mind, people, this report, depending on how fast you can read, is probably about a 10-15-minute read, which I think is very valuable. Keep in mind, we need to be educated and informed, and Warren Buffett said it best, the best education is to teach ourselves. And we need to learn when it comes to retirement, especially if you want to be successful in retirement. And so, again, I just want to elaborate on that. The goal is to get the knowledge so that way you can know, what philosophy you want to choose for retirement. You're tuned into the Retirement Income Source. This is Tim Sparks, and we're talking about the income opportunity. And as my mom always told me, or as my mom always did, she always was really good about getting things on sale. Right now, income is for sale. The opportunities are. My dad always told me, opportunities are never missed, son. Some people take advantage of opportunities, some people do not. And so, I've lived with that all my life, and I've always, I'm one of those. I'm always looking for opportunity anytime it doesn't matter how old I am. And not only that, if I want to be successful, people, I got to be constantly be willing to make changes whenever changes are there to take. Because when it comes to income, I can tell you right now, the goal is to get the maximum income, and trust me, that's a great problem to have, is having too much income in retirement. So again, high yields while the supplies last. If you think about it, since retirement, for most retirees, per surveys, and we read a lot of these, we're starting to see that income is still the priority. But the thing is, though, people are not looking for the highest income when they go into retirement. They're looking for cash flow management, and that's because that's what they're used to. You don't even know you're using a cash flow management tool. That's the reason why we do a retirement risk report, to be able to help you to identify what actual real income is. Therefore, you don't have to focus on cash flow management, which is really doing nothing but just selling shares and trying to be clever by being you're engineering your income in hopes that you'll recover what you got left. Imagine a farmer that's slowly whittling away, selling acres each and every year to come up with income. Just using the analogy here. Some years they sell 3 or 4 acres. Other years they may sell 8 or 10 acres. And some years when the markets are going well, they might only sell 1 or 2 acres. But every year they're selling acres. They're giving up the leverage of the land. The land goes up in value when you have all of the land, and in order to have all the land, all of your shares, everything that you own, you're better off just think like the farmer. Just increase the crops, increase the income that the crops provide for you. You can do the same thing with the individual stocks, individual funds. You can increase your income and actually maintain those shares, so that way you can get growth when there is growth, because you have everything available. A farmer that has 100 acres is better off than a farmer that has acres that are diminishing. Over time, the farmer that's selling acres is eventually going to run out of acres, and that's going to be a problem. And so the farmer that maintains their acres still be able to maintain their hedge when it comes to inflation. So the income first methods I'm referring to, in other words, how to get the crop income up, so to speak, using the analogy of the farmer, is to be able to get information to you when it comes to stocks and bonds. I got an excellent book written by Dave Scranton, a CFA, called Return on Principle. When you have a strategy geared toward interest and dividends, you always know how much income you're actually getting. So now it doesn't matter if the markets go up and down. How would that make you feel in retirement? You see, we all know that land value increases, land value decreases if you're the farmer. The farmer's not worried sick about the value if they've got income flowing in. They know over time that real estate is precious. They need to maintain the ownership of that and just continue to put their income to work by actually having crops. You do the same thing with stocks and bonds. Now, you get this book if you're one of the first 5 callers of today's retirement income source by calling 888-930-1080. Again, free, no obligation book, 888-930-1080. You're tuned in to the Retirement Income Source with Tim Sparks. We will be back in short. Welcome to the Retirement Income Source with Tim Sparks, your host, sponsored by Sparks Financial Group, a retirement income source right here in the heart of the bluegrass, Lexington, Kentucky. Today we're talking about the income opportunity. You know, when it comes to retirement, you know, the number one goal is to have income. And income is, it should be the highest priority. Even if you don't even need income, it doesn't really matter. I mean, imagine, you know, when you're in retirement and, you know, the employer still keeps sending you checks. That'd be a good problem. I'm willing to bet there's not one person listening to this show that would actually turn that down. Well, you see, your portfolio actually is not designed to pay you checks, but you can actually create a portfolio that actually can create you paychecks. And I'm not talking about paychecks like annuities, which some years you get income from interest and other years you get income from principal, because that's the way those annuities are designed. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about real interest, and you still have all of your principal that can be returned to you depending on the period or how long you hold that particular instrument. And right now that income opportunity is starting to leave the depot, because interest rates eventually, slowly but surely, will start coming down. And why is that important? Because first of all, you got an income problem. So income problems needs to be the solution should be income-like instruments that actually provide the solution for the income problem. And you do that by actually switching gears from what you're accustomed to, which is, you know, accumulating wealth. And accumulating wealth by using primarily the most commonly used instrument today is mutual funds. And mutual funds got you to this point, but if you want to be able to get to the next level, go to the next level, and that is know how to keep your principal intact and also be able to have an inflation hedge, then you're going to have to invest for income first, and that should be your model, and then you will get your growth potential as well, because you're the only one that's still going to become a capitalist when the markets actually turn for the better. It's true, the markets are, have been doing pretty good in the last 16, 18 months. But, back in 2022, it was just the opposite, right? The markets were going down. And actually, they stayed down. And all people did last year is recover the loss from the year before. So, in essence, nobody made any money for about 2 years and 2 months. If you go back to 2020 during the pandemic, again, when the markets are going down, you don't know how long they're going to go down. That's the problem with the future. Nobody knows the future. But that unknown is not an income plan, because you need to have something that's known, something that's reliable. And so even though you didn't know it was going to happen, if you had an income plan, you were planning just in case it happened. And so now you got income even during the pandemic. And our clients were continuing to spend the paychecks that were provided for them, because now they were focusing on income first and not necessarily always worried about the balance. It's always amazing to me that, when I read about wealthy people, their mindsets are different. But the majority of the herd goes one direction, and that's what most people do when they go into retirement. And people that go into retirement thinks that they're doing exactly what the wealthy do, but they're not really doing that at all. The wealthy think differently. They also invest differently. Yes, they got a lot more money. I'm not saying that. But when it comes to having a lot of money, they also want to be able to maintain that money, and they want to do it in the most intelligent way. And if you take Warren Buffett, we all know he dumped $50 billion of Apple stock, and there about a few weeks ago, I think he had $290 billion in cash there at Berkshire Hathaway. Why did he do it? And why has he got cash at that level on the sidelines? Well, somebody that's got that kind of a net worth, there must be a reason why. A lot of times, he's looking for hopefully maybe opportunity. I don't know his reason why, but we all know he has a knack for making money. And he does it by buying low. Well, you see, when you're investing for income, even though you don't need income, it creates opportunity. Another thing, what catapult Warren Buffett's wealth in the first place, what got him to the point where he can call himself a multi-billionaire, was he had invested for dividend-paying stocks, and he still does that today. So this is nothing new to him. Matter of fact, he resorts back to it many, many times. Whenever he dumps a company, typically it's a growth-based company. It's not an income-based company. Isn't that something? Because there's something about the longevity of dividend-paying companies that hang around in the long run. Plus, you get income while you're at it, which is a good problem to have, because that income creates opportunity, and opportunity means you can buy low because you got more income coming in. That's for somebody that's wanting to grow their wealth. But if you actually need income distributed to you, you also need income coming from dividends and interest, and quit spending your principal, especially if you're trying to avoid running out of money before you run out of breath. Yes, it's true. The markets, if they continue to go to the moon, you have no problems. But you have no assurance of that. And so the only assurance we know is death and taxes. But when it comes to investing for income, interest, and dividends, that is a much more reliable option, because you got to solve a problem, and that is income. So for those of you out there that are trying to solve two problems, trying to chase two rabbits at the same time, which we know nobody can catch two rabbits at the same time, but if you're trying to chase two rabbits, one rabbit being the income, the other rabbit hopefully getting growth, then you got to invest in stocks that pay dividends, kind of like what Warren Buffett, catapult his wealth. And by the way, he's not the one that started that. Another guy by the name of Ben Graham actually goes way back before he did, and actually he read his book, The Intelligent Investor, and and shared those ideas with him, and that's exactly what we do. And our clients actually invest for income and growth, and they do that by investing for income in stocks. You do, and so we got a commission report in your hand. It's actually called investing for income in the stock market. And this could be yours if you call 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080. And we'll mail this to you or email it to you, whichever you prefer. Again, investing for income in the stock market while being in the stock market, hoping for growth, 888-930-1080. You're tuned in to the Retirement Income Source. I'm Tim Sparks, and today we're talking about the income opportunity. Take advantage of these high yields while the supplies last. Right now, even in the last couple of weeks, I've seen yields drop slightly, but the yields are still much higher than what they could be in a few short years as they continue, if interest rates was to continue to go down. You know, I have a client right now that has a need. He's 57 years old. He's not going to be 62 for 5 more years, and he's concerned about risk. He's concerned about losing what he has, and he's got $1.5 million, and he needs about $80,000 a year for the next 5 years. Well, he's got options out there, okay? He can just, first of all, do what most people do, just take out $80,000 a year and hope for the best. Why do I say hope for the best? Well, first of all, the income is cash flow management. He's just taking withdrawals, calling it income, and since he's got a substantial amount of money at $1.5 million, he's just assuming that everything's going to be great. And what he doesn't know doesn't hurt, but sometimes if he found out what he should know, then it may hurt. And what he don't want to do is to run out of money before he runs out of breath, and especially since he's retiring early. So what do we do? How do we fix a problem like that where, he can take out 80, but, throw caution to the wind, que sera, spend principal, even though he's in the stock market? Well, you can do that, but you have to invest for the I. So most people don't want to miss out on growth, but they also don't want to, they got another problem. They got to have income, and $80,000 is a pretty big problem. So I told him, I said, do you realize you're in a unique situation because the opportunity right now on the income side is much more desirable than normal? In other words, you tell me that you need $80,000 a year and you don't like to see principal fluctuating so much. You're okay with some fluctuation as long as you've got, assurance of income, because he's heard me on the radio show. But at the same time, he doesn't want to lose what he has, and that's what we all, right? That's how we're all wired. I mean, you strip, if the markets take $300,000 bite out of his portfolio, he's going to get concerned and probably not want to spend the $80,000, and that can happen so quickly, as we've already seen just in 2020 and 2022. We all hope for the best, but hope is not a strategy. So I told him, I said, do you realize that you can, got several ways here you can get $80,000. Right now, you're not getting $80,000. We did an analysis. He's getting about 1.25% dividend. And so I told him, I said, your advisor's charging you 1%. So in theory, you're only making 0.25%. He was totally in the stock market, in good mutual funds and in good ETFs. He was in that's where I would be if I wanted to grow my money, but it's not where I would be if I wanted income for my money. And so I told him, I said, so you have to choose which rabbit you want to chase. And so I told him, I said, if you want to minimize spending your principal, you're going to have to switch gears. And so do you realize conservatively right now, if you just want to be ultimately conservative, you can take that $1.5 million and get $90,000 a year, which is $10,000 more than you want. And in 5 to 7 years from now, I'll hand you your money back guaranteed. That's one opportunity. Now think about what I just said there, people, because 3 years ago I couldn't have said that, especially from more of a safety or like type investment tool. Now I'm talking about real returns here. These are not fictitious returns or even hypothetically speaking. So I said, but I wouldn't do that. I mean, I told him, I said, listen, that's really conservative. Even though there's people out there that probably would think, well, gosh, sign me up. I want that kind of money. But this guy, he wanted growth and income, and so I said, I got to be realistic here. The only way you're gonna get growth is I got to have instruments that give growth, and that is individual stocks, while simultaneously paying income. So I said, so let's meet it in the middle. Let's use some of that, maybe half of that, and the other half dividend paying stocks. Your income is going to be around $70,000, which is going to be $10,000 less. But the good news is, you're only spending $10,000 in principal for the next 5 years, but you also may get rewarded if the markets happen by accident go up. But also you got some protection elements in here, and if it wasn't for the income component, I couldn't get the income up where you want it to be. So with that being said, that's the choice he chose. Now he's got half his money totally in the option of having growth and income, and the other option strictly income, and all doing the same very thing that everybody hopes to do, and that is to preserve your capital. And so when he gets to age 62 or age 64, he may even want to delay Social Security now because of the income at that level. In order to get the income at that level for any of us, I got an excellent book out there with Income First Methods. These are the methods that high net worth individuals use, large corporations use, in order to be able to sustain their principal. They just invest for income because there's, again, you got to have both components working for you, especially when you're in retirement. The name of this book is Return on Principal, written by CFA Dave Scranton. And this can be yours if you're one of the first 5 callers of today's retirement income source by calling 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080. And we'll mail it out to you. Again, if you're one of the first 5 callers, free, no obligation book, 888-930-1080. You're tuned in to the Retirement Income Source with Tim Sparks. We'll be right back. Welcome to the Retirement Income Source. This is Tim Sparks, your host, and this show is sponsored by Sparks Financial Group, a retirement income source right here in the heart of the Bluegrass, Lexington, Kentucky. Our primary focus is always about income first methods. Why is that? Because most people that are listening to the show, if you're pre-retirees going in retirement or retirees already in retirement, you want to make sure that your retirement is actually stress-free. You do that by investing for income first. Then you will be able to have your cake and eat it too. It's hard to have your cake and eat it too when the markets are the markets. You can't control where they go up or they go down. Sometimes, I wonder if people think that I'm kind of conservative. Well, if all you did was invest in stocks, like our clients, we have some clients that have nothing but stocks that pays them dividends because they're comfortable with that. They're okay with a little bit more volatility. But if you heard what I said the word stocks. There's nothing conservative about any kind of stock that we invest our money in, right? Now, some stocks lose less money in the down markets than other stocks. But at the end of the day, if income is the problem you're trying to solve, and you also want to have growth, then you have to invest in stocks to be able to do that. It's the only tool out there that actually can give you both, with the exception of real estate. But right now, there's an income opportunity out there. This is where you can give yourself a higher pay raise. When you're in retirement, you should be shopping for the highest amount of income, not be shopping for the best cash flow management type of advisor, because cash flow management can be wherever you want to be. I can tickle your ears and say, hey, take out 10% of your account value, but and I know that don't even seem reasonable, not unless you think that you can make 10% each and every year to preserve your principal. And there, believe it or not, there's people out there that's actually told me that they were told they can take anywhere between 8 and 10% a year. And I told them real quick, I said, if you think that that's what's going to happen here, or if you think we're going to give you that kind of advice, then you're looking at the wrong advisor. Why? Because it's unrealistic, and I'll be quite honest with you, I hope that you have really a lot of health going into your retirement, because you're probably going to have to go back to work somewhere down the road because you're going to run out of money. But you see, we all want a remedy. Several years ago, an expensive laboratory jet was approaching a landing strip down the Edward Air Force Base. The pilot tried to lower the nose gear to the landing position, but it did not respond. Now they're in a predicament. So he quickly had to veer off on his basic knowledge and think about, how can we get this thing down? And so he had to use some of his gut instincts, and sometimes you have to even use common sense in order to be able to activate the nose gear. So in other words, all he did really was he found a paper clip and bent it a certain way, and it bypassed the problem, so to speak, and it allowed the nose gear to actually come down and prevent that plane from crashing. It's just little things that makes a unique difference when it comes to solving problems. And investing for income people is not rocket science. I mean, at the end of the day, getting interest and dividends are very common depending on what type of instruments you own. And when you're going in retirement, you need to have the income instrument that pays you the most income. There is too much income means sometimes you can have problematic investment tools that you're using, but that's the reason why we use analysts. So with that being said, to get the income up and also be able to have the right instruments for the current economic place that we're in right now, then you want to have a commission report in your hand that's called, Are You Working with a True Retirement Income Specialist? And this report will help you to see who you're working with is a retirement income specialist to solve a problem that you have anyway, which is income. Then you want to read this report by calling 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080. And we'll mail this out to you or even email it, whichever you prefer. Quick read, but very extremely important, insightful, 888-930-1080. You're listening to the Retirement Income Source with Tim Sparks, and today we're talking about the income opportunity, taking advantage of those high yields while the supplies last. So I want to talk about one more person called in from the radio wanting to know how to get income from $3 million. These people were very successful, and what I found is the more money people save, the more income they need. And typically the percentage amount that they still need, or most people need, is usually ranges anywhere between 3 and 6% of their account value each and every year. Now, what I mean by that is, if you have $1 million, you want 3%, you only need $30,000. If you need 6%, you need $60,000. So somewhere in that range is what I find is the kind of the sweet spot. Well, when you're investing for income and the opportunity right now is more on the income instruments, you can actually get that $60,000 mark if you just want to be very conservative and you just want a return of your money, in as short of a period as 5 years. You can actually get that achieved. But this particular guy wanted, or couple I should say, had $3 million. They needed $100,000. And these people also were fairly young. They're only 53 years old and they're in retirement. So they figure $100,000 can maintain their lifestyle. So when you think about it, that's only a little over 3% withdrawal rate. If they're paying an advisor, which they are, that means they got to make 4% just to maintain their principal and not spend principal. But of course, when we did the analysis, it's just the opposite. Again, this is a more of a growth-based type portfolio, and growth-based portfolios typically pay lesser in dividends, especially since the instruments that are still being used, and most commonly used today, is mutual funds. Mutual funds that have growth in them. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. But people's got to realize that cash flow management is not near as good as income management, especially if you're wanting to prolong and get the most mileage out of your money. And also, there's nothing wrong with having a successful retirement plan. You do that by focusing on income first. So this particular couple, I told them, I said, really, all you need to set aside is about $1.7 million in the opportunities I'm talking about that's eventually going to go away. $1.7 million can actually provide you that $100,000, and you can actually keep the other $1.3 million over here in growth. It doesn't matter if the markets fluctuate, you get what you hope, then your $1.3 million may double. But at the same time, you got your $1.7 million that's going to be handed back to you in 5 to 7 years. And so when they looked at that, it was kind of like a no-brainer. And so I just wanted to share with you that last little case right there, even though I've already shared with you a couple other cases I thought was just as important of why income, especially right now, the opportunity is leaving the depot, and you don't want to miss out these opportunities while they still last. So with that being said, we are coming up at the end of the show, but I want to give you another opportunity to get this, a free, excellent book called Return on Principle, written by CFA Dave Scranton. You know, when you have a strategy geared toward interest and dividends, and even opportunities right now as interest is much higher than normal before rates come down, you always want your income coming in first. Why? Because it's the next 12 months that's extremely important. The next 10 years are important. If you have income first, then you can act, and you're focusing on that, then you will achieve your goals. If you're focused on growth, you won't always achieve your goals. And I have a free copy for the first 5 callers of today's retirement income source by calling 888-930-1080. Again, it's 888-930-1080. And we'll mail this out to you if you're one of the first 5 callers. Free, no obligation book, 888-930-1080. You've been tuned in to the retirement income source. Today we've been talking about the income opportunities. You know, here in about a month and a half or so, I have my brand new book coming out called The Retirement Income Shift, How to Get the Most Mileage Out of Your Money. And I'm going to continue to be bringing it up each and every week, and they're going to eventually be able to offer it here on our show. But we hope you got a lot of information from our show today. Hopefully this was very useful. The goal is to be able to help one retiree at a time who especially wants to focus on income and preserve their principal. We thank you for listening, and we hope to see you and hear from you again next week for another great show on retirement income.